All right, let's dive into a financial puzzle that honestly seems to break all the rules. We're going to talk about a concept that flips our whole idea of profit and loss right on its head. And we're going to figure out how, in the world of big business, losing money can sometimes be a very, very valuable thing.
I mean, it sounds completely backwards, right? A loss is supposed to be a bad thing. It means you spent more than you earned. So how on earth could that failure be turned into something with actual value? Well, that is the big question we're tackling today. And you know what? The answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
So where do we even start to unravel this thing? Well, we're not going to get bogged down in a bunch of complicated accounting jargon or what the IRS thinks. Nope, we are going to look at this purely through the lens of the law, just the words as they are written.
And this right here, this is the absolute key. When you strip away all the noise, all the opinions and regulations, and you just focus on the actual legal text, the picture becomes surprisingly clear. This isn't some sneaky loophole. It's a direct result of the words the law itself uses.
Okay, so that brings us to the very heart of the argument. And you're going to see that this whole thing hinges on the precise legal definition of just one single word, asset. How the law defines this term, well, it changes everything. Now, check this out. This definition comes straight from Black's Law Dictionary, which is basically the rule book that federal courts use. And look at how simple it is. The key words are right there. Any property or right. See, that's way broader than just cash in the bank or a building. It means an intangible right can be an asset, as long as it has economic value. So let's just walk through the logic here, step by step. First, the law gives a business the right to deduct what's called a net operating loss, or an NOL. That's just when your expenses are more than your income. Simple enough. Step 2, that right has real money value because you can use it to pay less tax in the future. Step 3, a right with economic value is, by legal definition, an asset. And then step 4, and this is the kicker, nowhere in the law does it say you can't do this. That silence is absolutely deafening. And there you have it. This is the conclusion you get from just reading the law literally. If a loss creates a legal right, and that right has economic value, and there's no rule against it, then yeah, it can be documented as an asset. It's a clean, straight line of logic. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds good on paper, right? But you're probably wondering, does this actually happen in the real world? And the answer is a huge yes. For decades, corporations have been using this exact principle. So let's open up the playbook they've been using. So how do they pull it off? Well, it turns out there are 4 main ways, all of them proven, all of them lawful. We're going to look at how companies use everything from mergers and subsidiaries to some pretty clever internal billing to turn those losses into cold, hard assets. All right, let's start with the most common strategy you'll see out there, the reverse merger. And this involves a special target called a loss corporation. Here's the play. A successful, profitable company goes out and finds what is essentially a corporate shell, a company that might not have much going for it except for a massive pile of tax losses. When they merge, the law says those losses are now the property of the new, bigger company. And think about this. Companies have paid millions of dollars in real cash just to buy these loss corporations. That tells you everything you need to know about how valuable they think those losses are. Okay, on to our second method. The principle is pretty similar, but the execution is a little different. This is all about packaging up losses inside a smaller company, a subsidiary, and then selling the whole thing off. Think of it like this. A big parent company can strategically push all of its losses into one specific division. Suddenly, that little subsidiary is way more valuable to a potential buyer because of its losses. The buyer isn't just getting a company, they're getting a tool that will lower their own future tax bill. And this isn't some new trick, it's been standard practice for over 50 years. Now for a method that's happening inside big companies literally every single day. This is how a simple operational expense can be turned almost instantly into a documented asset on the books. This one is really cool because it's all internal. Imagine Division A spends money providing a service to Division B. For Division A, that spending creates a loss. But then it turns around and sends a bill to Division B. That bill is now an accounts receivable, a legally enforceable right to get paid. And what did we say a right with economic value is? It's an asset. And just like that, the expense that created the loss got converted into an asset on the balance sheet. And for our last method, we're stepping into the high-stakes world of corporate deal-making.
This is where losses aren't just an afterthought. They're explicitly negotiated and valued as part of the deal itself.
So get this. When huge companies are hammering out a multi-billion-dollar merger, these net operating losses are literally put on the negotiating table. They're assigned a specific dollar value, just like a patent or a brand name. They become a formal part of the deal because everybody in that room knows those losses have real, tangible economic worth. So let's zoom out for a second. We've looked at 4 different methods, 4 different strategies. But what's the one thing they all have in common? Well, there's a single unifying principle that connects all of them. What you're seeing here is that in every single case, a loss is never just magically relabeled an asset. No, it's always tied to something else, a legally recognized event. Whether it's a merger, a contract, a sale, you have to connect that loss to a legally enforceable economic right. That's the secret sauce. And if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. This isn't about finding some clever accounting trick. This is about understanding what the law itself says an asset is. By structuring transactions that create these legally recognized rights, companies are just playing by the rules that the legal system laid out for them. So that leaves us with a pretty wild final thought. We've just seen how a strict, literal reading of the law can totally redefine something as basic as a loss. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the legal code sees value in places we normally wouldn't, what other hidden assets are just sitting out there, waiting to be discovered, just by reading the law as it's written?